we get up pretty close and I'm like, hey, good morning, how you doing? You know, blah, blah, blah. And the dog's like, whoa, you know, and kind of jumps forward. And I pull away a little, right? And she's like, I'm sorry, he's usually really friendly. I'm like, no, it's fine. I said, he's just doing his job, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm a stranger in the middle of the woods. And you're a woman, you know, and you got a male dog, which is probably the best bet because they look at, you know, the dogs look out for their masters, especially if they're the opposite sex. It's just a fact. Anyway, so like if you're a man, you should have a female dog. And if you're a female, you should have a male dog. Anyway, if you're looking for protection. So, you know, everything's fine. And I walk around, I'm doing my second loop and I run into her again. And she's like, you know, and she does it again. And the dog's fine, right? And she's like, you know, I think he was more of a hello. And I said, well, you know, I said, for sure. I said, and, you know, I'm sure some of it has to do with you putting him on the leash, which I appreciate, you know, I go, but sometimes it could give the dog the wrong idea, right? So it gets protective and I understand that. I go, but then, you know, my energy also affects the outcome of that situation, right? So like this time the dog was kind of coming towards me and I was like, what's up, buddy? You know, and even the other time he was pretty happy-go-lucky, but he did bark, you know what I mean? I didn't take it as like, oh, you know, but it startles you, a little one's right next to you. So I moved a little. So I think she took that as like, you know, it scared me. It definitely startled me, you know, but I wasn't like, oh, what the hell? But I used to be like, I mean, I would be like, I'd react all messed up. My energy would be way off. So the dog would get that. And a lot of times, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some people with some pretty shitty dogs out here that just don't listen. They don't care. They will come after you. Anyway, but it's not the majority, right? But like, you know, and so I would react a certain way. And that goes like with people as well, right? Like I was so abrasive. And don't get me wrong, I can still go tit for tat with some people here and there. It's a lot less nowadays. You know, maybe it'll be once or twice a year where I kind of have, you know, the interaction will start off a little negative, but then I sense that and I turn my energy around and usually can recover. You know, it's very rarely that I don't end up, you know, talking with the person and we're like, oh, dude, sorry about that, my fault, you know. So it's big, you know, it's big. That energy will definitely it transfers, you know. And I'm not saying that, you know, every person that you run into is a great person and you're going to be able to turn that situation around. You know, don't be a doormat. Don't let yourself, you know, but be aware of things. But, you know, realize that a lot of that energy that you have, you know, just like dogs, right? There's bad people just like there's bad dogs. For the same reasons, you know. The bad people weren't taught the right things, just like the bad dogs weren't taught the right things.